One of the first things that you will have to do is take the trunk liner off. Mine was already off because I have a project going on with that right now also. But to take the trunk liner off, it's just little buttons that push in to these holes here, down there. Just use a pry tool and you pop those off and you'll be able to just pull the liner off. Just be careful because this is tucked into the liner, but it'll pull right out from the liner and you can pull the liner away from it and just place it to the side. The next step will be unclipping the camera that actually goes in the spoiler. This was clipped right in here. I just pulled it out, the plug. And the next step is I'm just going to put a screwdriver there and unclip this. Then you'll have that disconnected for whenever you take off the spoiler. It'll pull out through the hole there. So for the start of this install, we're going to have to take off these caps. They just turn off. Just like that. On each side, right here, you'll have to continue and do the same thing. Now for this step, I grabbed a lot of flat nose screwdrivers, and make sure you get some good microfiber cloths or anything that's soft as a cloth. Wrap it around your screwdriver and tuck it down in between the crack here. Okay, so I got a better view here now with the screwdrivers and the towels. Now see them behind, right there. I'm going to light it up and show. Hard to see. Let's see here. Let's go over here. Just want to show you what the clips look like. Oh, right there. See that? That's one of the clips. There's another one. And you can see clearly this one. Right there. Right at that point. That's what's going to be pushed up. So there is one of the 3M tapes. You can see that I placed the knife through. I'll show you as an example. Right here. But what you want to do is stay up close to the spoiler, not onto the paint. As you can see here, I'm keeping away from it right here. And what I did was I just kept poking away at that spot and you eventually get right through it. And then it's all disconnected. That's one of them. There's a second one right here that I'm going to start poking away at. You just watch you don't scratch on this area right down here. Now here is another view in between what I'm talking about. See how I have my knife placed? I have it stabbed in between the 3M tape. So I'm not touching the paint, nor I'm touching the top of the spoiler in there. In the middle there, that is the clips. I believe there's 4 of them. You're going to squeeze those. Once you get the 3M tape, you're going to squeeze those and they're going to unclip. And then the tail fin should pull off once you get this 3M tape off. There's another one of those clips right there with the 3M tape in behind it. So this is just showing you that's what it's going to look like whenever it's done. See how it's separated? We can clean that up after once we get the tail fin off. So that's the process I'm doing. I'm just using a knife. You could use fishing line or anything you want to place in there. I'm just making sure I don't scratch the paint underneath. That's a good way of showing you what's going on at this point. With the screwdrivers wedged in, holding it up. That's why it's not coming off, is because of the clips and the 3M tape. So here we go. I use the knife and cut through the 3M tape cautiously and slowly. There's the second one. And the third one is in behind here. See how the pins? They just want it to pop out by themselves, but they might need to be popped out. What you're going to use is just some needle nose pliers, and see how it's 2 clips on each side of the push-in button that goes into the hole. You squeeze that and lift up lightly on the spoiler. Just now, remember that the spoiler, there isn't much holding it else on there now, so you're going to pull out the stuff and lift the spoiler off at this point. Just make sure whenever you pull out that this wire that we did earlier, that we disconnected underneath, comes through the hole lightly. The spoiler is now off. As you can see, there's lots of tape and dirt, debris. We're going to have to clean that off. Make sure you use a solution and microfiber cloths, so you're not scratching and doing abrasive damage to the paint. So that's the next step, cleaning this off and getting this 3M tape off. I'm going to heat it up and then peel it off. And then we'll move on to getting the camera taken out of the old spoiler and putting it into the new one. Okay, I've moved into the house for this process of switching over the camera from the old spoiler over to the new SRT Redeye wide-body spoiler. So the first step is to loosen up these 4 screws. I've loosened them. And then what you're going to do is just lift up on this. This is just going to let out the actual camera. See there? Try and do this with one hand. This will pull. There, I just pulled that. Tuck that through the hole there. And there you go. Now we're done the process of taking the camera out. And we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so now that we have the camera out, we have to take this wire off. There is a little push clip right there. Just put I just took a knife and just placed it under it and lift it up, and then it'll loosen off. It'll pull right off. Then you will be using your T15 Torx bit that we were using for the 4 other screws. And you are going to take off these screws right here. This will, right here, will actually take the camera off, because we're going to be transferring that onto that one over there. And then we're installing that plug onto this right here. So now that you've loosened the screws off here, let's see, there's one screw off and the other screw off. This piece comes off. Save those screws and put them to the side. Now we'll move on. We're taking that piece off. Okay, so now that we have the camera taken off of the original spoiler, the piece that came in the box with the new spoiler is this. We're going to be using this to put on the camera. It's going to be placed like that. Then we're going to use the same 2 screws with your Torx T15, and you're tightening it on. Then we will clip this wire for the camera back onto that. So let's get that done right now. So this is going to be going into here. The situation I'm facing is these screws are too big for the hole there, So all I did is I just took like a sharp knife that the wife's gonna kill me that I'm using her knives, and I kind of just tucked it in there and twist it and stripped some of the plastic out so the screw fits in and starts up. Then I'm going to screw it down tightly. Just a little pro tip for that. Okay, so now we have that tightened down onto the piece that was provided in the box. The next step is to loosen these two screws, pull that off, and you will be placing this. See where this hole is here in the center? That's going to go right between here on this pin. Just like that. So what's happening is that's going to fit in there snug. And that's going to hold it from moving around. Now, one thing that I came up with is that there was no screws for this. So you're going to have to just go out to your garage or see a friend and get some screws. Just 2 normal screws. Put them in those 2 holes. Screw it down tightly. Then you're gonna grab your wire on the end that plugs into it, and you're gonna plug it back into there. Then we're going to be installing it into here. So there it is, complete. There's the 2 silver screws that I screwed in to hold this piece into here so the camera can protrude out. You grab your camera wire that you unclipped earlier and you clip it back in to that clip. Okay, now that we have the wire clipped to the camera, this is going to be placed here. This wire is going to be tucked in underneath here and have to come out through this hole. So we're going to have to drill a hole large enough for this to fit through. Just whenever you're drilling your hole here, watch you don't go through into the other side of the tail fin. Just lightly make a good size hole so you can fit that through. Okay, here we are. I finally drilled the hole through here. I didn't have a great drill bit, so it took a while, but I just did little holes and just kept on working it till I got it big enough. The only thing I caution is, just whenever you're doing this, do not go all the way down through and start hitting the bottom piece, because you'll come right through the top of the tail fin. And I'm not responsible for that, so make sure you're watching whenever you're drilling here. But yeah, so what you do is you just tuck the wire through, feed it through here, and have it come out. Then you will place this back into its spot, and then you're complete with doing the install of the camera into the spoiler. Just tighten down these screws. Now, I went out to a local store and just got the 3M Auto Advanced Super Strength Molding Tape. I like that better than what came with it. You can use it. It's just to keep from vibrations. It's just going across here and some areas around here. It's just to keep it from the spoiler from on the trunk. 2 pieces rubbing against each other and bouncing. At least this is like a sponge in between. But I'd like to have the good 3M tape that sticks a lot better. It's the adhesive is a lot better. So I'm going to do that process now. Well, as you can see, I'm crazy about 3M tape. That's not coming off. I used the whole roll. But if you've ever seen any of my other installs, I've always believed in the 3M tape. It's been holding good with the wide body install, so I continued on with the good stuff. So there you go. You can choose to do 2 lines or 4 lines. I did 4 lines, just that I know it's going to stick good. So now we want to clean off the debris from the last spoiler on there. That's all dust and dirt. I took off the 2-way tape from the original spoiler. I just actually used a hairdryer. You can use a heat gun. Just don't use too much heat and get close to your vinyl if you have vinyl anywhere around. Just heat it up, and then I just rolled it. Just rolled the tape off. It rolled into a ball, and it just rolled right off of the paint. So I got that all cleared off. This is just dust and debris now. I'm going to wash that up with some rubbing alcohol and water. Just a small mix, about 60 to 70% alcohol mixed to water. Well, there it is, all cleaned up. Now we're ready to install the new spoiler. So I have my 3M tape applied. I used several strips. I have them pulled off at the ends, so whenever I flip it over and line it up, I can just pull on the pigtails and then push down on it. I'm gonna have 2 screws ready. They're in the bag. They come with 6, but I'm going to be only using 2. I'll show you the reason why. Just have 2 screws ready for this next part. Okay, so I have the 3M tape ready to be pulled off. The first thing you're going to do is run this wire through here into the trunk. Lift this up. I would say get this wire tucked through where you can reach it. Right here, so you know that it's going to be in the right location. Now this is the fun part. Placing this down to line up. There. Now what I want to do is lift it up, hold on tightly, grab one of your screws, and you're going to place it into the hole over here. So I still have it lined up, and I put a screw in on this end. It's still loose on each end, but I pulled the tape out, the covering of the tape. I slid it off. It's all ready to stick. Now I'm going to take a look, see how it's going. Looks good on both sides. There. Now we're going to tighten the screws down. Now I wouldn't tighten these screws too tight. You don't want to pull out the actual clip that you're screwing into out of the spoiler. It's just enough to hold it. The 3M tape's going to hold the rest down. There we go. Now, I'm just going to lightly push down on it. That should be applied. That should be it. There we go. Complete. Now that you have it stuck on really good and the 2 screws screwed in, you take your wires, plug these back in for the camera. You heard the click. That's clicked in. Then this will pop right back in here if you unclipped it. I did, just to make it easier, depending on which way that was. There we go. That's clicked in. And then you would put the back cover back on with the push pins that you have, the plastic ones, and you would tuck this wire into the side of it. There's a little inlet that will slide in. And then you're complete. Okay, we're finished. Look at that. It's the SRT rear spoiler installed.